Well, Norm, I'm taking you to the best Mexican takeout place on the planet.
Really?
Tanya's Tortillas. Hey, this is the owner right here, Rudy. Hey, Rudy.
Hey, great. Thanks for stopping by, you guys. We have breakfast, lunch, dinner available. We have things like chorizo and eggs, machaca and eggs, which is beef jerky.
Well, we're here for breakfast.
Okay, we have traditional scrambled eggs and refried beans, cheddar cheese and potatoes. We also have the huevos rancheros, the chorizo plate, machaca plate with the dry beef.
This is breakfast?
Yeah, or why not? How about some soups? We have all of the traditional soups like the albóndigas, the arroz con pollo, cazuela, the cocido, pozol colorado, that's my favorite soup. We have the caldo de queso, cheddar cheese soup, jugo de birria, traditionally made with goat. And then, then menudo, traditional Mexican hangover remedy with.
We want a tortilla, right?
Tortillas, yeah. We have our handmade flour tortillas that we make here from 5:30 in the morning. The same ones that you get on your burritos, that you get rolled in your burritos.
I think it'd be better if you just chose a couple for us.
No problem. No problema. We'll take some out for you right now. Okay. Thanks.
Menudo?
Okay.
Goat? Isn't this great, Norm?
It is.
Wow, I can't wait.
All right, you guys, this is the traditional mini chimney plate. This is the machaca with eggs, which is the real dry beef.
Look at that.
And finally the menudo, the traditional menudo there. Thanks.
All right.
Boy, this looks good, Steve. We haven't had a breakfast like this since we were in London.
That's true.
Oh, you guys, save some room for dessert too. We'll have that out in a minute.
Dessert for breakfast? Guess we better get started.
Funding for this old house is provided by State Farm Insurance, keeping our promise of protection to generation after generation. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Glidden Paints, celebrating 120 years of making the world a more colorful place. Glidden, a better way to paint.
And by
When it comes to tough hand tools, we're making a name for ourselves because they're made with a full lifetime warranty. That's ACE, the name to know for hand tools.
Hey, John. You
Morning,
missed a
Steve.
great breakfast this morning.
Oh, sorry I couldn't join you.
You don't sound too sorry, John. Hey, look, what happened? The destruction is continuing unabated here. You ripped up what was a perfectly respectable asphalt driveway and some concrete curbing.
Well, actually, Steve, both the asphalt driveway and the curb were in pretty bad repair. We had cracking and heaving caused by water and tree roots in the asphalt, and the old curbing had broken up and really was in need of replacement.
So the Megs decided to spring for new material?
The Megs have decided to spring for new concrete paving block and new extruded concrete curbs.
Hey, it's only money, John.
Only money.
But now's the time to do it.
That's correct.
Now, I noticed that there is a new concrete footer here. What's that for?
Right, well, the guys right now are working on the base for Elizabeth's new bay window. Her dad promised as part of this remodeling that she could have that bay window she always wanted.
And you need a footer to support it.
We need a footer to support it, and it'll actually be two windows at a 45 and then a window across the front, which will give her a real nice window seat.
And then you'll stucco it in so it'll blend with the rest of the house.
It'll be stuccoed in and it'll blend the building exactly.
Great, John. Now, what's the schedule for the rest of the front?
Well, like the back, Steve, the whole front of the house gets resurfaced and it'll look like brand new. But before we do that, we're going to put in some of these old beams to replace those that had rotted out.
Wow, these are great. Where'd you get these?
We had these trucked in from Flagstaff.
Yeah? They cost a lot of money?
$85 a piece delivered to the job.
That's pretty good. It looks like they arrived just in the nick of time.
Well, that's correct.
Because the old beams are badly deteriorated.
Right. You know, the sun and the water and this climate down here really raise havoc on wood.
So what are you going to do to these to keep them from falling apart like those did?
Well, we'll put a double coat of asphalt emulsion on the top. That'll pretty much make them water impervious.
Progress inside?
Oh, a lot of progress inside here, Steve. You notice all the floors that are being protected have already been refinished.
Well, why though, John? It's only about halfway through the job. Don't you want to do this at the end?
Normally, we would want to do this as the last phase of the project, but with the kind of schedule that we have, we need to get our subs in whenever we can find a day for them.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Can we take a peek?
Oh, you bet. Please do.
Wow, look at that. Hey, this walnut edging was not here before, was it?
No, we added this little border to kind of emphasize the hearth area.
Boy, that is going to look great.
Real pretty.
And a pile of poplar molding.
You know, we had all this new baseboard and casing milled up to match the original so that everything we did would look like the old. And it's ready to go in right now.
Great, John. Now, I can't walk into this front room without noticing the plaster. It's got that old-timey sort of Southwest feel to it. I understand we're going to do this in the master bedroom as well.
You know, it's happening right now, even as we speak.
It's great.
Boy, Gilbert, this is fantastic. It's going to look great, just like everything.
Good. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Steve.
There have been some big changes in here. This looks great.
How do you like this?
Wow. Is this old?
No, this was it's brand new. It was manufactured in Tucson.
Looks like it's been here since the house was built.
It does.
But look, I came here to learn about plastering. After all, this is the new part of the house.
Right.
And you want to make it blend in with the old, so you need to texture the walls like the old parts.
That's right. Well, let me introduce you to Gilbert Chavez. He's our head plasterer.
Hi, Gilbert.
Hi, him out of retirement
Nice
to
to
do the
meet you.
job.
How long you been a plasterer?
Oh, over 50 years.
And Jim dragged you out of retirement.
Yeah.
Well, show us your secrets. How do you get that great texture?
I'll show you.
So he's putting on a smooth coat here?
It's putting a smooth coat so we can put the texture on afterwards.
All right. Do you have to let that set up?
Just a little.
Well, this is great. Now, elsewhere in the house, Jim, I noticed there is a cove detail.
Right.
And you've reproduced that here, where the wall meets the ceiling.
Right.
How did you do that?
Well, let me show you. It's a little different than they used to do it in the old days. We now use an extruded styrofoam piece that actually just glues right up in the corner.
So you got your profile here, and you just glue that right up there.
Fell right over it.
Great. Now, let's see if he's ready for the secret texture. You ready, Gilberto?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, so you've got your smooth coat on the wall.
And
You're just putting a little bit on your trowel and skipping it around.
yeah,
Now, do each of your fellows have a signature? Can you tell where one guy left off and the other picked up?
well, we work so much together that we can match one another.
Boy, they make it look easy.
Think so, huh? Why don't you try this?
All right, you mind?
Oh, go ahead.
Now, give me a lesson here.
Oh.
I notice you take just a little bit on your trowel, right?
Yes, sir.
Nice and light, Steve. Remember, I have to look at this from the foot of my bed from now on.
You'll think of me, Jim.
I'll think of you.
How am I doing?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. I got a feeling he's being polite, Jim. You want your trowel back there? huh?
Yeah, I'll finish it up for you.
Well, I think it would take me a little while to get the technique, Gilberto.
Yeah, it's all in the feel of the trowel.
Boy, that's beautiful. 50 years sure counts for something in this job.
Greg Massengale is a lath, stucco, and plaster expert here in Tucson, and he's been given the job of refurbishing the exterior of our old house. Now, Greg, are the conditions we see here pretty typical of an old house in Tucson?
Of this era, yes. We've got all kinds of different conditions on the building as it exists right now.
Such as what?
Well, it's an old brick structure. It's done some structural settling, which has caused cracks in the stucco work. There's been water enter the stucco and delaminated it. Finally, in an attempt to repair some of these problems, an old coating was applied.
And that's all fallen
And
off.
it's failed.
Well, I suppose what I would do is nail some expanded metal lath on and then just replaster it.
That's something we could have done, but we think we have a much better repair system.
Now, one of your workmen is masking off this doorway. What's he getting ready for?
We're going to water blast this area to remove all the old coating and loose stucco.
So you're just going to power wash it?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, let's see that. Boy, John has had to work real hard to get this old material off.
He sure has, Norm.
And I guess the house was green at one time.
Very popular color back in the 30s, 40s here in Tucson.
Now, how good is good enough in getting this old stuff off?
Well, let me show you what we have finished. Norm, here in the indoor-outdoor kitchen area, we have these walls prepared.
So all the loose material is gone, but it's not very smooth.
Well, we were mostly after cleaning the surface, and we're not too worried about how rough the surface is.
So what's next?
Let me show you the system going on here in the courtyard.
Oh, wait a minute. I see you're lining the whole building with styrofoam.
Well, actually, this is an expanded polystyrene board.
So we didn't deplete the ozone layer when these panels were manufactured?
That's correct. We did not.
Do the insects like it?
No, actually, there's a chemical in the board to keep the insects out.
Well, why go through all the trouble of putting this board up anyway?
Well, it is very labor-intense, but it's all part of the system, and it provides a very stable substrata to receive the finished material. It isolates the old structure from the new system. It has a very good insulating value where we're applying it against living areas.
So it's like a little cushion that adds insulation.
That's it.
But you still got to stick it to the building.
Yes, we do, and we use this high-tech adhesive to do that.
Well, this looks a little bit like thin set that we use to set ceramic tile.
It's similar.
What's the guarantee that this is going to adhere to the building any better than the stuff we just saw coming off?
Well, all these materials have a great track record, Norm. They've been around since soon after the Second World War, so almost 50 years.
Now, I see over here that Robert is shaping the panels.
Yes, he is.
Can I see that tool for a second? This is a metal trowel with some sandpaper adhered to it. Is that just sandpaper like from a floor sanding machine?
It is similar, yes.
And the idea is to rough it a little bit and round all the corners?
We rough the entire surface to give it an additional mechanical key. And also, because of the Santa Fe style of the house, we need to soften all these corners.
Okay. Well, one thing I'd be a little bit concerned about, though, is that you still have seams between these individual panels. What's to say you're not going to get cracks there?
Well, Norm, the next step is to apply this fiberglass mesh to the entire surface of the board. And again, we use this adhesive to apply that.
So you embed it in the adhesive.
That's correct.
The system's starting to look a little bit complicated. Is this something a homeowner can go down and buy the supplies for and do himself?
No, I'm afraid not. You have to be a licensed applicator to apply this material.
Well, it's going to take a couple more days before you actually get to the point of putting the skin on the outside of the panels, but we'll be back to make sure we see it happen.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks for showing me the whole system.
Thank you.
Hey, Steve, I really like these Mexican tiles.
Oh, aren't they great?
I especially like the ones that have the paw prints in them.
Well, stick around and I'll show you how that might happen. One of the most stunning sights in a town that's full of them is this neo-Gothic church, the Parroquia, or Parish Church of San Miguel de Allende. San Miguel is a village founded in the 1500s. It's 3 hours north of Mexico City, and not far from the epicenter of the Mexican Revolution, which established its independence from Spain. Americans have been coming here for years, in part because it's a perfectly preserved Spanish colonial village, but also because it's a noted center of the arts. Now, in the shops that surround town square, you can buy just about anything. And here, I'm told, we should be able to find our intrepid contractor, John McCaleb. Oh boy, they got everything here. Arnold Schwarzenegger, dried flowers, and look at this. Even Filipino wedding shirts. Oh, no gracias. And along with the trivial is the significant. How about this for a set of carved doors? Aren't those something? Seems like everywhere you go in this town, there's something great to look at. Check out these old doors. Boy, talk about patina. And look at this shop. Oh, what wonderful stuff. Now, it will be my excuse that I flew here, so I couldn't possibly get any of this stuff home. But maybe I should just bring the family back. Look, there's a garden as well. And here's John.
Hi, Steve.
You buying, John?
Haven't even asked how much yet, but they sure would look great on my back patio.
Or mine. But we were here on a mission. We're supposed to be looking for tile for the Meg's back patio.
Well, you're right. And to do that, we're going to have to go about 30 miles from here to a little town named Dolores Hidalgo. There's a tile factory that you've just got to see.
Well, let's find ourselves a taxi, shall we?
Let's go.
This one's hungry. Now, John, when you said tile factory, somehow I imagined a massive building filled with humming machinery.
No, Steve, here in Dolores Hidalgo, this tile is made the same way it's been made for the last 300 or 400 years. And this is where it begins.
A pile of soil?
A pile of soil that's brought in locally, and it's got a lot of clay material in it, and the next part of the process is to separate the clay from the organic material, and it's done in a very unusual way.
Oh, now wait a minute, John. What's going on here? The ultimate hot tub?
No, Steve, this is actually the traditional way of separating organic material from the clay material.
So he's in the tub, stomping around with his feet?
That's correct. The organic material will come to the top, the clay will sink to the bottom. Then he'll take it, run it through that filtering screen, drop it into this pen, which he can then open, and the clay will flow out into the holding pen ready for the next phase of the operation.
Now, isn't there a machine to do this?
No, this is the time-tested traditional way of doing this.
Wow, that is unbelievable, John.
Well, let me
Muchas gracias, senor.
Let me show you the next step.
So, John, how long does that guy have to spend in there?
Steve, he'll probably be in there 2 to 2.5 hours.
Wow, that looks like tough work.
It is hard work. And when he gets the clay to the consistency he desires, he'll let it out through this pipe and into this holding pen where it'll sit for several days drying in the sun.
Oh, I see. It sort of settles down and forms these big slabs. It's almost like cold fudge.
That's correct. And then you'll notice that Roberto is moving the clay by wheelbarrow into the next part of the factory where he does the next phase.
Wow, look at this, John. There must be 10,000 tiles in here, all laid out in the dust to dry.
Yes, Steve, they lay them out in these cool warehouses so they don't dry out too rapidly and crack.
But we haven't seen how they actually form the tiles.
Well, let's follow Roberto.
So this is the processing center. Boy, it is very basic. There is not a machine to be found.
No, this is pretty low tech. And
What's happening?
Well, Carmelo is putting today's clay out on some previously fired bricks, and those bricks are going to kind of act as sponges and draw the moisture out of this clay.
And Roberto is taking off his shoes and he's jumping on this pile.
That's right. He's taking yesterday's clay, which has been drying a little bit, and he's working it kind of like bread dough or glazing compound.
So the idea is to make it more plastic.
Exactly.
I see. He's cutting off a big chunk.
He's going to cut off that big chunk and then take it over to his working table where he'll start working it in another direction. And they've been doing it the same way for centuries, Steve.
It's just like making bread.
Well, I don't think you'd use your feet for making bread.
Well, you'd have to get used to it, but I think having bare feet in the summer when it's 110 degrees would be pretty pleasant.
Not bad at all.
So what's this operation, John?
Well, Roberto's going to put this clay onto his workstation and knead it a little more.
I've seen Julia Child do the exact same thing.
It's just like working with dough.
Actually, it looks like fun. This powder, what is that?
It's a material they call arenilla. It's a material that they find in riverbeds in veins, similar to gold and silver. It's really quite scarce.
And that just keeps the clay from sticking to the board?
Just like you'd use flour with cookie dough.
He flips it over. And these are like screeds, John?
That's correct. Roberto, la rodillo, por favor.
Wow, look at that. Just like a big rolling pin. Heavy metal, wooden ends. Gracias.
Now he's going to flatten this out and get it into the rough shape of the tile that he's making.
Just like making gingerbread.
Roberto can make about 170 to 200 of these tiles a day. He works from 7 to 5.
Ah, and here's a mold. Just presses it right in.
Now he unmolds it, trims the edges.
Everything is so simple. His tool is just a bent piece of wire with a fine piece of wire stretched between the ends. A little bit of drying, and he's got a tile.
There it is.
So how long do the tiles have to dry before they can go on to the next step?
Steve, the tiles will be in this shed for about 7 days before they're ready to go outside.
7 days, huh? Well, you know, we've seen these tiles with paw prints in them, so now I understand that if a dog or a cat comes in looking for Roberto's lunch, then it would leave its prints.
That's right. You know, those are the tiles we have to pay extra for in Tucson.
Roberto, muchas gracias. Oh, wow, look at this. Out here in the sunshine, about a half-acre of tiles just cooking away. It's nice and warm today, about 75 or so.
Yeah, Steve, these were the tiles that you saw in the warehouse. Now, they've been brought out here to spend about 3 days in the sun doing some further drying.
So I guess the idea is you don't want them to dry out too quick or else they'll crack.
That's correct. Now, they do move them inside every night to prevent the dew from accumulating on the surface.
Wow, that is a lot of labor.
It's a lot of labor. Then when they hit just the right degree of dryness, they take them over and stack them in the kiln.
These?
These over here.
Looks like these could have been built in the 16th century.
Well, they were originally built to be fired by wood, and now they've been converted to use natural gas.
So they just rack them up in there like we see?
They rack them up like you see this gentleman doing. They'll close these ends off with some fired bricks, and then they'll actually fire these tiles for about 11 hours. And at the end of that time, there'll be a finished product that you see over here.
Look at the color. Isn't that gorgeous? Now, I got to ask you, John, how much is something like this worth off the factory floor?
About 10 cents a piece.
Boy, that is a lot of value.
Yeah. You know, Steve, before you leave here, I've got to show you how they make these beautiful tiles using the same clay that we've seen used and some glaze. Follow me.
Oh, different atmosphere in here. Cool, shady.
Yeah, it's very different. In this area of the operation, Steve, you'll see artisans putting on colorful, highly decorative glazes in traditional patterns.
What's this young woman doing?
Well, you'll notice she's spinning a wheel with her left hand and then applying the glaze with her right hand. And if you think it's easy, try it sometime.
So she's got a brush that's been altered, so just a few bristles stick out. That's
It's a very, very delicate operation.
What does a finished tile look like?
This is a tile after it's been fired.
Isn't that beautiful?
It is. And over here, Steve, Patricia is glazing tile using another very traditional pattern called half a handkerchief. Using her left hand again to spin the wheel and her right hand to apply the glaze.
And that mask keeps part of the tile from getting glazed.
It allows her to apply the glaze much more rapidly.
Finished product?
The finished product fires, of course, for several hours, and as you know, the glaze changes color while it gets heated up. And the finished product looks like this.
That is wonderful. I might have to redo one of my bathrooms. I can never look at another tile without thinking about a trip down here. Thanks, John.
You bet, Steve. My pleasure.
Now, how about some carnitas?
Sounds good to me. Let's go.
Colleen, have I got a deal for you? With a pool this size, do you have any idea how many of those Mexican tiles you could make?
They're going to be beautiful, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Now, look, I got a question for you. This thing is, what, about 12 or 14 feet long? How are you going to get enough laps to get any exercise in it?
Well, actually, you don't do laps. You swim against a current as opposed to going back and forth in the pool.
You swim against a current?
That's right.
Huh. So, do you think that you're going to use this?
Oh, absolutely. I swim 3 or 4 times a week as it is, and I have to get in my car and drive across town. So this way it'll be right outside the door.
So no treadmill, no jogging, no Stairmaster. Swimming. All right. How does it work?
I haven't a clue, but let's ask James Murdoch.
Hi, James.
Hi, Steve.
Now, your dad invented this idea, I heard, right?
Yeah, back in the 30s. He grew up in Phoenix and used to swim in irrigation canals a lot.
And you started the company?
Yeah, I started the company about 10 years ago, and we make about 300 or 400 of these a year now.
Great. Now, I've seen pictures of them on rooftops and inside buildings. They don't just have to go outside, right?
No, in fact, back east, they're often put indoors.
Really?
They're very heavy, though, so they ought to be down on the ground floor.
How much water goes in here?
About 2,500 gallons.
Wow. So how does the whole system go together?
Well, this rectangular enclosure holds the water in. It bolts together in about an hour, and we put a PVC membrane in it and fill it with water. And then we have a structure around inside which moves the water.
Now, can a serious swimmer actually get exercise in a pool like this?
Oh, absolutely. No, its top speed is about a minute 8, 100-yard pace.
Yeah. Is that a good pace for you?
We can turn that down, can't we?
Yes, we can turn that down.
Well, it's getting kind of hot today. I sort of wish you had it done.
Give us another day.
All right. Now, rumor has it you will be the first beautiful swimmer in this pool.
Oh, I wouldn't believe everything I heard, Steve.
Hey, Norm, throw away that old ski machine of yours.
Really?
I got the ultimate exercise for you.
I don't know, Steve. If I spend too much time in that pool, I might get rusty.
Well, besides, who needs exercise?
That's right. Hey, now what's going to happen next time?
Well, next time, with any luck, we'll get some windows and doors for these openings back here. And you're off on assignment.
That's right. I'm going to go to a place where they build habitats for desert animals.
Sort of, this old cave?
Yeah, you're getting it.
Okay. So until next time, I'm Steve Thomas.
And I'm Norm Abram.
For this old house. Now, what kind of animals? Snakes and scorpions?
Yeah.
Funding for this old house is provided by State Farm Insurance, keeping our promise of protection to generation after generation. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Glidden Paints, celebrating 120 years of making the world a more colorful place. Glidden, a better way to paint.
And by
When it comes to tough hand tools, we're making a name for ourselves because they're made with a full lifetime warranty. That's Ace, the name to know for hand tools.
A production of WGBH, Boston.
This is PBS.